Welcome to Daily EDH. Today we're playing some CEDH. In the first suit we have Ryan on Ashling Flame Dancer. Ryan keeps a hand with the Mountain, Wandering Archaic, Jessica's Will, Flare of Duplication, Redirect Lightning, Lotus Petal, and Increasing Vengeance. This deck is seriously sweet and it just tries to scoop wins right from players' grasps. Also, not to have a spoiler warning, but it pops off this game. Then in second seat we have Jared on Urza High Lord Artificer. This deck aims to assemble infinite combo, plug that into its commander, and win the game that way. Jared's opening hand contains Copy Enchantment, Snapback, Tezzeret the Seeker, Island, Snow-Covered Island, Tyrannosphere, and a Mox Opal. Not to have more spoiler alerts, but this deck also goes insane this game. Then in third seat we have Max on Kinnan, Bonder, Prodigy. I personally don't like this art, but let me know what you guys think. Anyway, you probably know what this deck does. Max's opening hand contains a Soul Ring, Mox Diamond, Yagomaya Coast, Dispel, Treasure Vault, Mystic Remora, and an Ancient Tomb. Not to be annoying or have even more spoilers, but this deck also pops off this game. You guys are in for a treat. Then in fourth seat we have Dylan on Tymna Dargo. This deck is a Bardu combo pile. His opening hand contains a Starting Town, Demonic Tutor, Cabal Ritual, Tainted Pact, City of Traders, Professional Facebreaker, and Lively Dirge. Well, let's get straight into it. This is going to be a seriously sweet game. Also, before the game begins, go down in the comments and say who you think's going to win. Furthermore, just guess how many heuristic study triggers you think are going to happen in this game. Hint, it's a lot. Anyway, here goes. Ryan starts the game off quick with a Mountain, Lotus Petal, and a turn 1 power balance. Ryan then chips the turn. Jared plays an island as land per turn and casts Mox Opal. This triggers Ryan's power balance. Ryan's power balance reveals a Mountain, which cannot be cast, and then Jared passes the turn. Max plays a Mox Diamond and pitches a land. This triggers power balance, which whiffs. Max then casts a Mystic Remora. Power balance whiffs because the Mountain is still on top of Ryan's library. Max plays Treasure Vault as land for turn and uses it to cast Soul Ring. Power balance again still whiffs. Max then chips the turn. What's following is near unbelievable in CEDH. Dylan plays a land and passes the turn. Ryan plays a land and passes the turn. Jared plays a land and passes the turn, and it's back to Max, who absolutely kills the mojo as he pays for fish, plays a land, and casts Kinnan before passing the turn. Oh, and on the Kinnan cast, there's a power balance trigger, which reveals a 1-drop on top of Ryan's library. Ryan plays a Starting Town as land for turn, casts a Demonic Tutor, and Ryan's power balance doesn't do anything. Ryan untaps and casts Rite of Flame. This triggers Max's Mystic Remora, and Max draws a card. Ryan then casts Jessica's Will. This gets Max another card with Mystic Remora. Ryan then uses their butt ton of mana and casts Ashling Flame Dancer before passing the turn to Jared. Jared plays a land for turn and casts Tyrannosphere. Mystic Remora and Power Balance both trigger. From Ryan's Power Balance, Ryan reveals a Flail of Galadriel and casts that for free. When Flail of Galadriel gets cast, Max gets a Mystic Remora trigger and draws another card. Tyrannosphere then resolves. Max untaps and uses a Soul Ring to pay for his Mystic Remora. Max plays an Ancient Tomb as land for turn and uses it to cast Heuristic Study. Power Balance triggers, but whiffs. Max then casts Mirror Maid, making himself a second Heuristic Study, and Power Balance again whiffs. Max then heads to combat and hits Dylan with Kinnan for 2. Max passes the turn. Dylan casts a Professional Facebreaker. Max has 2 Heuristic Study triggers, and Max draws for both of them. Power Balance again whiffs. Dylan then passes the turn to Ryan. In Dylan's end step, Ryan floats a red, which Ashling keeps. Ryan untaps and draws. Ryan then pays 5 mana and casts Wandering Archaic. Max gets 2 Heuristic Study triggers and draws for both, but has nothing he can do about the Wandering Archaic. Ryan then heads to combat and swings 4 at Max. Max takes 4 to the face. Ryan then passes the turn to Jared. Jared plays a land for turn and taps 4 to cast Urza High Lord Artificer. Max has 2 Heuristic Study triggers and draws for both. Ryan's Power Balance trigger misses. Jared then casts Copy Enchantment, making a Heuristic Study for himself. Max has a Mystic Remora trigger and 2 Heuristic Study triggers. Max draws 3 cards, but the Copy Enchantment does resolve, and the Power Balance trigger fizzles again. Jared then passes the turn to Max. Max, being the greediest fellow on the planet, again pays for his Mystic Remora. Max then casts Moonsilver Key. Power Balance misses, and Jared draws a card from his Heuristic Study. Max then cracks his Moonsilver Key to go get Basalt Monolith into his hand. Max then casts Mox Opal, giving Jared a draw from his Heuristic Study. Max then uses Mox Opal to cast Grim Monolith. This gives Jared another draw from his Heuristic Study. Finally, Max casts Basalt Monolith, giving Jared another draw from his Rhystic Study. Max, however, isn't getting away with it that easy, as Jared casts Snapback, targeting Kinnan. This triggers Max's Rhystic Studies and Mystic Remora, as well as Ryan's Power Bounce and Wandering Archaic. Ryan's Wandering Archaic trigger bounces Dylan's PFP to hand. The Power Balance fizzles, Max draws 3 cards, and the Snapback returns Kinnan to Max's hand, and Basalt Monolith resolves. Max then plays a land for turn and ships it to Dylan. Dylan taps for 3 and casts Professional Facebreaker. This has 3 Rhystic Study triggers and a Power Balance trigger. The Power Balance trigger fizzles, Max draws 2 cards, and Jared draws 1. Dylan then casts a Shambling Ghast. Power Blast again does nothing, Max draws 2 cards, Jared draws 1, and Shambling Ghast dissolves. Dylan then passes the turn to Ryan. Ryan untaps, draws, and heads straight into combat. Max takes 7 to the face. Ryan then passes the turn. Jared untaps, plays a land for turn, taps his Trinosphere to add a blue mana, and casts Occam's Astroblade. This gives Max 2 Rhystic Study triggers and a Mystic Remora trigger. Jared doesn't pay for any of them. Jared then casts Tezzeret the Seeker. This gives Max 3 more draws and unfortunately resolves. Jared then uses Terrazeret's Uptake ability to untap 2 artifacts and add 2 blue mana. Max then casts Chain of Vapor, targeting Ryan's Wandering Archaic. Jared has a Rhystic Study trigger, Ryan has a Pyro Balance trigger and a Wandering Archaic trigger. The Power Balance trigger happens first, and Ryan casts a Ragavan from the top of their library. This triggers 2 of Max's Rhystic Studies and Jared's Rhystic Study. Max draws 2 cards from his Rhystic Study, and Jared draws a card. Ragavan then resolves, and Wandering Archaic copies Chain of Vapor. This triggers Ashling Flame Dancer. Ryan draws a card and discards a card, and then Max's Rhystic Study is returned to his hand. Jared then finally draws for his Rhystic Study from Forever Ago. Then with Max's original Chain of Vapor on the stack, Ryan casts Redirect Lightning, changing the target from Wandering Archaic to Max's other Rhystic Study. The Redirect Lightning triggers Max's Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, Jared's Rhystic Study, and Ryan's Ashling Flame Dancer. Ryan's Ashling Flame Dancer's trigger resolves first. This deals 2 damage to Max, Jared, and Dylan, and all of their creatures. Dylan has a greedy Freet Looter that dies and makes him a treasure. Max then draws 2 cards from his Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora. Jared then draws a card from his Rhystic Study. Finally, Redirect Lightning changes the target of Max's Chain of Lightning, and Max's Rhystic Study is returned to his hand. Max then chooses to continue the Chain of Vapor and sacrifices a land. Max again targets Wandering Archaic. Ryan, however, of course isn't done with their shenanigans, as they sacrifice Ragavan Nilful Pilferer to cast Flare of Duplication. This triggers Max's Mystic Remora, Jared's Rhystic Study, and Ryan's Ashling Flame Dancer. Ryan adds 4 red mana, and then holds priority and casts Increasing Vengeance. This triggers Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, and Ashling Flame Dancer again. I'll have Increasing Vengeance off to the side on this deck, just so you guys can read it and know what it does. But with Flare of Duplication, it gives Ryan the win. So Max has to respond. Ryan takes her Ashling trigger, drawing and discarding a card. Then Max takes his Mystic Remora, drawing a card, and holds priority on the Rhystic Study draw. He casts Force of Negation, paying for the Wandering Archaic to counter the Increasing Vengeance. However, before that happens, Power Balance fizzles, and Jared draws a card from his Rhystic Study. Jared then draws another card from his Rhystic Study from Forever Ago. Max draws for his Mystic Remora. Jared draws another card from Forever Ago from his Rhystic Study. Then Flare of Duplication copies Chain of Vapor. Finally, Max's Chain of Vapor from probably half an hour ago returns Ryan's Wandering Archaic to Ryan's hand. Jared, then wanting to fizzle Max's floating mana, moves to combat. Max then uses that floating mana to cast Valley Floodcaller. Jared gets a Rhystic Study trigger, and Max does not pay for it. Jared then casts Mishra's Bauble. Max draws a card from Mystic Remora, and Power Balance again does nothing. Jared then casts Urza's Bauble. Max gets another Mystic Remora trigger, and Power Balance again does nothing. Jared, now with some mana, casts Grim Monolith. Max gets another draw. Jared then jams. He casts a Power Artifact, targeting his Grim Monolith. If this resolves, he'll have infinite mana, which he can pour into his commander, and he'll win the game. Max has to respond, so first he takes his Mystic Remora draw. Max then pitches a Glen Elandra to cast Force of Will. Jared gets a Rhystic Study, and Power Balance doesn't do anything. Jared, however, has a Fierce Guardianship that he uses to counter the Force of Will. Max does get a draw from the Mystic Remora though. Max then casts Force of Vigor, trying to destroy the Grim Monolith. He pitches an Elvish Mystic so that he can play it for free. This gives Jared a Ristic Study trigger, and Jared takes it. Jared then casts Narset's Reversal. Max gets his last draw from Mystic Remora, returning Force of Vigor into Max's hand, and making a copy of it, targeting Max's Mystic Remora and Ryan's Power Balance. The Mystic Remora and Power Balance are both destroyed. Max then again casts Force of Vigor, pitching another elf from his hand to attempt to destroy Jared's Grim Monolith and Ristic Study again. Jared's Ristic Study triggers, and he draws a card. Jared then casts Swan Song, countering the Force of Vigor. Max's Ristic Studies are in his hands, and his Mystic Remora has been destroyed, so he doesn't get any triggers. He's also been fighting so much interaction that he is all out. Therefore, Swan Song resolves and counters the Force of Vigor. The Power Artifact then resolves, and Jared has infinite mana. He uses that infinite mana to cast Tidespout Tyrant, and he returns all permanents his opponents to his owner's hands. He then passes the turn, and then he slowly beats us down turn after turn as we're helpless and can't do anything at all. Thank you all for watching. For those that took a guess at how many Ristic Study triggers, there were 37 this game. Isn't that wild? Furthermore, thanks for watching. This was a 44 minutes worth of footage and it took hours and hours and hours to edit. So if you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave it a thumbs up and give it a subscribe. Anyway, thanks again for being here and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.